Hello, everyone. My name is Edward Jie. I'm with Gao Feng Advisory Company. We are a strategy and management consulting firm with roots in China. And we've been having a dialogue series with our guests, people who we know over the years, and we come along and we begin to engage in dialogues on issues that are relevant to our clients. Today, I'm very pleased to have Ram Narayanan to be with us. Ram is a really very talented person because I know that he's active in blogging. He's very active in geopolitical issues, business issues, cross-border issues on the regional as well as on a global basis. He's also an avid marathon runner, but he's got a real job. As I understand, his real job is a vice president at in the petrochemicals business at Allianz Industries, one of the largest, if not the largest conglomerate in India. And importantly, he has worked in different places in Asia as well as other parts of the world. In Asia, of course, India, where he is right now, but he also worked in China, Malaysia, and Taiwan, as far as I know. So he brings a lot of experience and perspectives on issues that are related to important economies like China, India, US-China relationship, those kind of issues. So today, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to discuss with Ram and get his perspective on some of these critical issues. But before we talk about these sort of issues, Ram, perhaps you can introduce yourself better than I did. So please say a few words about yourself, Ram. Welcome.
Thank you, Edward, and thanks for the opportunity to come on your show. And I think you've done most of our introduction. So just to add to it, right now my real job is I work as a vice president strategic planning in the petrochemicals business in India's number one conglomerate, that is Reliance Industries Limited. So so my career has taken me to different places. One is across India, across the world also. I lived and worked in China and Shenzhen in the telecom business many years back. That was a great experience. Then I worked in Malaysia, then worked in Taiwan. Then I lived in UK. Then I've done business in many parts across the world, especially in Asia, Europe, and Africa. And so therefore that gives me, and in different industries, telecom, metals, mining, chemicals, different part of chemicals. So I think that's what I always try to integrate my learnings from the different parts of the businesses and meeting different sets of people. So therefore, I think as a part of my initiative, that's why I met Edward. So we've been having dialogue. So I'm more than happy to be on his show. And that's briefly about myself. Edward also told me about my other interests. Mainly it's running, marathon running. I write a lot. I post my views on various topics on my LinkedIn and Facebook posts. So and then invite back views on that. So yeah, that's about it. So I call myself a jack of all trades. So therefore, try to put my hands into everything and meet different sets of people and exchange my views. So today, I'm more than happy to be with you, Edward.
Oh, fantastic, Ram. Since you're now, in India, of course, you're ethnic Indian. I would like to start with, some questions about India, if it's okay
Sure.
with you. So, for our audience, right, who may not be very familiar with India, what's going on with the Indian economy these days?
Okay, good. That's a good one. I think that's a question which I'm asked everywhere, especially when I speak to my clients across the world. Well, Indian economy, I mean, no wonder it was battered badly last year because of COVID. I think we had one of the worst outbreaks of COVID, given the huge population density that we have. And then we thought we had recovered in the earlier part of this year. Then we were again hit by a bad second wave in April. So therefore, so in April, and we were caught in a bit of a fix because vaccination rates were not high, and vaccine availability became a bit of an issue. But the Indian government did a fantastic job. The Indian government, has dreams of making India the vaccine capital of the world. So therefore, vaccine production was ramped up. In fact, we have two major suppliers in India. One is based with UK Oxford. Second is indigenous supplier. Plus, we also put one or two more suppliers from across the world. So therefore, main thing the Indian government took initiative was to improve the vaccination rates. And India has got a population of 1.25 billion people. And about 2 weeks back, like India touched close to about 1 billion vaccine shots in the country. I mean, that's a major achievement. I think no other country, maybe apart from China, no other country has reached this kind of a number. So therefore, vaccination rates went up. Our first dose vaccination rate has reached close to 70%. The people who are double vaccinated, the people like me, we are up to 20 to 25%. And the rate at which it's going, the Indian government says by the end of December, maybe by early January, most of the people above the age of 18 will be vaccinated. So therefore, this has been a major boost to the Indian economy. And so therefore, the threats of a third wave that will come up in September, but that never came up. So therefore, I think what I can say that is the government's initiatives to control the COVID outbreak and vaccination has really helped. Now coming to the economy, we got badly hit in the quarter starting from April we got badly hit initially, so the recovery was not good. The IMF has predicted that in this year, financial year, in this year of 2021, Indian economy will grow at a rate of 9.5%. So that's a pretty good rate as compared to steady state rate of 6 to 7%. And mainly it's been driven, if I can break down different sectors, Indian economy is highly driven by the services industry, which is driven by the IT industry. Then comes manufacturing, then comes agriculture. Now, the services industry has been highly given a boost because of the global economic growth. Because Indian services is majorly dependent upon the exports market, and then because of the economic growth across the world, especially Western nations, the Indian services industry got a big boost. Because of the Indian economic growth, again, the local services industry, especially the hospitality industry and the delivery service industry has got a big boost. Manufacturing especially has got a big boost, especially with the rising consumer demand and also with the rising demand globally. And manufacturing also has got a big boost from the rise in exports, especially in the field of chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and all. So therefore, there's been a big boost in manufacturing. Agriculture industry, which is India's traditional this thing, was not affected much during the pandemic because people in the villages were not majorly affected. So that has remained steady and is shown decent growth. So therefore, the basic tenets of all the industry growth, that is services and manufacturing, is showing very strong signs.
Yeah.
So therefore, going forward, we see good growth. So therefore, I think Indian industry right now, after a pretty bad last year, the Indian economy is on a steady state growth. That's what I can say for the time being.
Right. I understand the drivers of growth now, but what may be holding perhaps some of the growth back?
Okay, what may be holding it back is, see, today, let's look at the services industry. Services industry is mainly dependent upon the global economy. So therefore, I think the service industry will do well. Manufacturing is the biggest, it's a area that needs a big focus on in India. Still, we have seen what is really holding back manufacturing is like we need more of investments in the manufacturing sector. Because the business houses in India, after the pandemic of last year, they are just about to open up the capex plans. We need more of a foreign direct investment. That's something the government is focusing on. That needs to come up in a big way. Third thing is cost of doing business. If you compare to China, is still pretty high. I mean, the cost of interest costs, and then infrastructure, which is not as good, maybe which is just improved. It's not as good at some other areas. Needs to be improved. That's another area which the government is focusing on. The third thing is the labor laws. I think that's what the government is focusing on, so that industries are able to move faster. So I think these are 3-4 major factors which is holding it back, and what the government is working on. And fourth thing is the taxation rates. India introduced the goods and services tax about 4 years back, but India being a federal structure, there are still a lot of issues between the various states. That's something the government is focusing on. So I think once we get all this resolved, I think Indian economy will be in a major growth path out here.
Oh, thanks, Ram. In addition to yourself, I've got to know quite many number of Indians, and I find many of them very smart, very eloquent, very articulate, and very capable, right? Yeah. And as you know, for me at least, our focus is very much on innovations and helping companies to really figure out how to leverage innovations to generate the game-changing strategy, right? So I'm actually curious to know, since so many Indians are so smart, how does this human capital continue to help drive India's innovation and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, great. That's a great question, Ed. See, if you look at India's demographic profile, between the ages of 18 to 45, 35% of India's population between the ages of 18 to 45. That is that is a core which is very critical for the economic growth of any country. So it's a pretty young population. And so that is so we have a huge human capital. So the biggest challenge in front of the government is how do we train these people to foster innovation? Second thing is how do we grow the economy faster and create jobs for these kind of people? Like,
Right.
as you know, if you go to the US, you go to all the major research agencies, there are quite a lot of Indians out there. And if you go to all the major technology companies, I mean, Google, if you look at Google, Microsoft, it's all headed by Indians.
Yeah.
So as such, like given the right set of opportunities, Indians can do well. So now coming to especially to innovation, in the last 1 year, the number of startups which have become unicorns, more than $1 billion of valuation, has increased manifold.
Wow.
Across all of them are most of them are based on technology, but we have also quite a lot of startups which is based on innovative ideas by the young set of people. So the growth of unicorns over the last one is a great indication of how innovation can foster economic growth in India. That is number two. And number three is entrepreneurship. See, today, if you look at it, because of this startup culture which has built up in a big way in India in the last 2 to 3 years, most of the youngsters, instead of taking up some steady job, like what I did when I started my career 20 years back, they prefer to work in startups. Working in startups is really very, very glamorous right now, and that's what the young people want to do.
Yeah.
So therefore, given the fact that a government is creating opportunities, given the fact that Indians have been successful abroad, third thing is like the kind of valuations that are coming for unicorns. Fourth thing is today, the main thing for entrepreneurship innovation is availability of capital and availability of talent. That is readily available in India. We've got a great English-speaking population. So therefore, based on this, I think this is the demographic profile to support this is what is going to really drive, and we've always seen some very good results, innovation and entrepreneurship in India.
Yeah, this seems to be a very potent advantage for the Indians, and I really hope that we can see more coming from India. So if you don't mind, if I would also turn the sort of discussion to China.
Oh,
since
fantastic.
I know
My
that
favorite country.
You lived and worked in China for a long time, and you're still in touch with your team in China on a day-to-day basis. And given China and India are the two largest, most populated, with the largest populations in the world, people always compare China, India, and so on, right? So, first of all, maybe I start with a more fundamental question. Given your experience and your track record in China, what is your most, what's the biggest impression from you on China? What's China to you, actually?
Yeah, China to me, in fact, I first came to China in 2000, the year 2000, 2001, and after I started living there. China to me is a country which was highly focused on whatever it does, single-minded focus, and then very, very strong on execution. And that still continues. In my business today, the biggest set of companies that are coming up in the world are in China. And the way they are implementing projects is something which nobody has seen across the world. So therefore, for me, China is massive scale, very strong, very focused nation on whatever they do, and very strong execution skills. Like I keep on telling an example, in 2002 or 2003, when I was living in Shenzhen, a flyover was built in front of my house. And I think it was built in a period of 4 to 5 months or something. And I used to joke at the time, like if it in any other country or maybe even in India, it will take something like 4 to 5 years. So that's the kind of thing. And every time I used to travel across China, I see some new changes in China. And even now, when I go to China, I see big changes. So therefore, China as a whole is massive scale, very strong focus, and then a lot of determination by the government, and then excellent in execution. That's what is China to me. So no wonder, like China has grown from what it is in the 90s to the world's second biggest economy, and soon to overtake US the biggest economy in the world. So I'm not at all surprised. And then the way China shifted from a purely back-end manufacturing country, let's say in early 2000s, to moving towards high-end manufacturing and now innovation. I think today, look at the number of patents that has been built up in China. I give the example of Huawei. When I used to deal with Huawei in 2002, it was seen as a telecom equipment manufacturer. And today, they're the world leaders in 5G. I mean, there are a lot of political issues around it, but still, then look at the way they've come up. So I think that's the way China has moved. China has not only grown, it has also restructured itself over a period of last 20, 25 years to be a major economic superpower. That's what is China to me. it amazes me every time when I read about China. It amazes me.
Oh yeah. Since you lived in Shenzhen, right? When you're in China, you had a first row seat in witnessing how Chinese innovation and entrepreneurship developed, right?
Yeah.
Because Shenzhen is such a hub for innovation and
Right.
entrepreneurship.
Right.
In your opinion, what drove or what drive China's innovation and entrepreneurship, and how would it evolve over time?
See, the best thing about China was China had a very good manufacturing base, and the realization came that it's not it's long the long term won't really become a superpower. You cannot only be a back end manufacturer, not only keep on supplying parts to all the major brands across the world. So I think that realization by the government and the planning by the government really drove it. And B is because of the manufacturing base China built up. So I think China got exposed to a lot of the Western knowledge, the managerial practices, and the way all the big companies think. So I think that's what it is. Third thing is because of the way we're supplying to all the biggest brands and biggest companies in the world, the competitiveness of the industry, especially the manufacturing industry, was built up. And four, China also, like India, had huge amount of talented people who worked across the world, and China attracted all the talent back to India. In fact, I know a couple of friends who were professors in different universities across the world. They moved back to some jobs in a place like Tsinghua University in Beijing and some other places, and also with some leading companies. How China attracted all the talent back. In fact, like what has happened in India, many of these people, the younger generation, I think today prefer to work in China rather than only go move abroad. So that's what I feel is happening in China. And number four was, I think, given the fact that the demographic profile of China was changing, I think a very good decision was taken by the government that we need to become that China needs to become more of an intellectual superpower. So I think the focus was put on innovation and especially on patents. I mean, to look at the kind of patent that comes out of China in different industries. So therefore, I think that was a major focus that was put by the government. And then finally, even though there were a lot of issues in terms of some multinational companies having issues with intellectual properties in China, but nonetheless, I think China focused on its innovation-led growth, which I think the major thought came from the government that it is innovation that's going to lead them to the future growth and make them a sustainable superpower. I think that is the shift which has happened from only being a manufacturing based on intellectual manufacturing based intellectual superpower. I think that's what has made a difference in China. And the fact is, I think your political system supports it. I mean, China is basically a very, you are a sort of a single party system. So therefore, I think I would always say it's a capitalist oriented a political power system which you have. And that's the best of the two combinations that you can have. So I think that's a major reason why I think China has become a innovation-led superpower right now.
Right. So that's on the Chinese company side, right? Let's move to the foreign multinational side.
Yeah.
Since you have represented foreign multinationals in China and really been paying attention to the Chinese development over the years, what would be your advice to foreign multinationals who operate in China? What would be your advice for them to be successful, right? How can they be successful in China?
Yeah, see, in fact, when my company moved to China, in fact, at the time, especially most of the companies were setting up bases in China to procure from China. In fact, some of the few Indian companies like mine, we actually went to sell to China because we saw China as a huge market. And I'm talking about 2001, 2002. So my first advice to the multinational companies is I think which they already know is China is a huge market, 1.25 billion, 1.4 billion population, high spending power. Look at the GDP per capita is pretty high. So it's a huge market. So look at China as a big market itself, rather than just use China only as a manufacturing base.
Yeah.
B, since China has moved quite a lot from what it was in early 2000s, it's no longer a low-cost manufacturing base only. It's also intellectual and high-tech manufacturing base. Yeah. So therefore, I'm sure many multinationals have got issues in terms of intellectual property rights. But I would suggest all of them to look at China as more of a global manufacturing base rather than only at a outsourced manufacturing. That is number two. Yeah. Third thing is today China is well integrated into the global system. So therefore, kind of fears which the companies had maybe 20 years back, I think that is sort of taken away right now. And fourth thing is, I would also say, I also keep on telling, tell all the multinational companies is, you move some of your good people across to China, get them exposed to the way the things work in China. You have to understand the culture of China, the style of working in China, how the different systems work in China. So therefore, that's something we didn't really understand. So because China's somewhat is the second biggest economy right now, and it's not going to go away. So therefore, you need to deal with the different sets of the systems that comes up in China. And fourth thing is dealing with the local governments, dealing with the governments of China. There is a lot of fear always. Anything different will happen in China, but that's not the way it's going to happen. I mean, every country has got its own set of policy changes and all. But come what may, the Chinese government really focus on developing China, making China into a big economic superpower. So therefore, I think the more and more you have a permanent base in China and more structured and subtle base in China, I think that is what really going to help the multinational companies. There is a lot of talk about the supply chain shifting away from China. Probably a little bit will happen as a part of de-risking strategy. But with the amount of supply chain base that's been built over the last 20, 25 years, very difficult to move away from China. So my advice to summarize my advice to multinational companies is treat China like as a market, treat China as a very good base as a global base for your businesses, and then treat China as one of your hubs of innovation, the kind of innovation and talent solvent in China. So like maybe you might have a base in Europe or USA and all, treat China as one of the hubs for the global innovation, global markets all put together. That's my advice to all the multinational companies.
That's incredible because not too long ago, maybe 10, 20 years ago, most people outside of China view China as a copycat nation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And today, I think, many people are now talking about China being such an innovation hub. That's quite a change within a short time of a decade or two, right?
Yeah, you look at it. I mean, the mobile industry, I think mobiles started coming to India late 90s, and we used to get all the mobiles from Europe and all in India. Now look at it, all the global mobile companies, all manufactured done in China.
Yeah.
And China and India. So that's a big change in China, which I think I would really appreciate the way China has moved about being a copycat manufacturing to being innovation with manufacturing. Yeah.
You also talk about the role of the government in China, right?
Yeah.
And how they come up with the policies to drive, how the country should move forward. As you know, one of the recent major policy is Beijing's commitment for carbon neutrality by 2060. As an energy expert yourself, right? How do you see that as an opportunity for companies, including foreign companies? And how do you think the Chinese government would achieve this goal? And what should businesses, including both foreign as well as local companies, need to work together to help to achieve this goal?
Yeah. See, as we all know, COP26 is going on in Glasgow, and and of course, in fact, I say India has also announced by 2017 India will be carbon neutral.
Yeah.
As compared to 26 what China has announced. So I think the way you look at it, we saw the latest sort of the last 2 months, China has been in focus because of the way it has handled the energy crunch. Like, energy supply was cut to some places so as to have the emission norms because of the Winter Olympics and because of the part was decarbonization. No, that is one way. But let's look at it on an overall structure. Like, let's the first thing, solar energy. Like China today is a global major supplier for solar energy equipment, right? From panels to everything. That is number one. Second thing is even in the case of wind energy. And the third thing is, another thing that's being talked about is hydrogen. I mean, a lot of work is going on hydrogen, about hydrogen production, electrolyzers of hydrogen and hydrogen movement and all. So therefore, China being a big nation, and China has also had lots of issues with environmental concerns. As well as any other developing country would do, even in India, we face the same kind of concerns.
Yeah.
So again, given the innovation hub that China is developing, so therefore a lot of work is going on in China. And what I would say, most of the other countries of the world is like, China today is a unique place like what India is. Huge market, having the same concerns what everybody else has got, but there's also huge innovation, the manufacturing hub in China. So therefore, you get all these things put together in one particular place. I mean, you can't get a better thing than like this. I think today the only two countries in the world which offer these kind of opportunities are India and China. So I would tell all the Western nations and the all the multinational companies is utilize this entire opportunity of a shift from fossil fuels to renewables. I mean, today there's no way all the countries are committed. I mean, if somebody say this is just a sort of talk, just a purely talk, it's not a place because China has had a lot of concerns with emission norms, pollution, and all, like what India has had, like any other country has had. So therefore, there's no, I mean, there's no thinking back. They are going to move towards carbon neutrality. So therefore, given this base which China has built up in terms of focus on renewables, in terms of a big market which needs to address to, and innovation-led culture which is there to back it up. I mean, that's a huge opportunity for people who are talking about climate change. And I think countries like China and India have got a major role to play, as what you've been hearing from the news that has come out from COP26, the first day of COP26.
Yeah, this is good, Ram. I think this is a good segue into perhaps our last, the last section for our dialogue today, which is now we try to, we talk about India and China separately, and let's put to these two countries together now, right? Right. As I mentioned, given we are the two largest populous country in the world, how do you think the relationship between these countries should be in terms of, should we be collaborating? Should we be competing? And if so, how?
Yeah, that's something which used to be asked to me when we used to live in China. I used to say, like, both the countries have got a lot of commonalities, like, huge countries, huge population, plus the cultures are almost similar, a very family-driven culture. Yeah. And then India and China, pretty old, ancient countries with a long history. I mean, there are a lot of, if you read the history of India and China, a lot of scholars from China used to travel to India, and a lot of people used to travel to China. In fact, when I traveled all across China, I saw a lot of things. And in fact, Indian movies in some parts of China are very, very popular. Like, I still remember for once when I was giving gifts to my Chinese customers, they all wanted one Indian actor from the 1960s, his songs and all. So therefore, the cultural history is already there. So therefore, there is no way, like, India and China should be at loggerheads with each other. They should collaborate as well as become more competitive. Let me put it this way. Both have got, China has got a huge manufacturing base. India is also aspiring to go in that way. There are a lot of things that we can learn from China. Now, India has got a knowledge base in terms of a young population, in terms of the way Indian IT industry has been built up. That's something which I think India and China can collaborate together. Right. Third thing is in terms of technology and innovation. So today, the way innovation-led development, especially what is happening in India recently and what has also happened in China, that is an example for the entire world. I mean, the world can look up to China and India, and the world can also, like, take help from China and India. So therefore, the way I put it is, like, India and China, they have a long history, ancient history. They have collaborated in the past. They should collaborate and make each other more competitive. Not only in case of businesses, in terms of economy, but also, like, there are a lot of other things that we can do together, like in terms of, since we share such a huge border, like, water sharing and exchange of more people, like, traveling between both the countries, so that they understand the culture and they understand the nuances of the country. And the political systems are completely different. I'm sure there are many things which Indians can learn from the Chinese political system, and what China can learn from Indian political system. We are a democracy with a federal system, while China is a sort of a single party rule. You have your provinces. That's a different way. So there are different ways the systems work, and the systems succeed also. I think that's another way where we can learn from each other going forward in the world, and going forward into the future. So I think the way I put this, India and China should collaborate and also make each other more competitive and make themselves as a hub of the economy for the world. Let's put it this way: 1.5, 1.4 close to India's problem. This thing about 2.6 out of 7. So therefore, let's say almost 33% of the global population is between these two countries. Huge market, and then if you develop the skill set which you've already done, I mean, there's nothing more is required. Nothing more is required. Why do you have to look at some of the markets?
I like the outlook, Ram.
Yeah.
Before we adjourn today, Ram, what do you have any final words and any final advice for our clients?
Okay, what I would say is today the world is changing. Technology-driven innovation, artificial intelligence, machine learning has come up in a big way. And the biggest challenge in front of us today is what is happening in Glasgow in terms of climate change. That is number 2. And the third thing is today, we still, both the, especially China and India, we still have huge population. We have to feed our people. Sure. We have to develop and then so as to create enough jobs for all the people who are going to, young people especially. China's again routed back to a two-child policy. So therefore, again, in a few years, we'll have quite a lot of younger population, which India is having right now.
Yeah.
So I think the skill sets and the base which countries like China and India have built up over the last, let's say, so many years. India started liberation from 90s. China did a few years before. Is a great base for all the people put together. So therefore, I think Chinese entrepreneurs and Chinese people, they can take advantages of a lot of things that is happening in India. Similarly, the other way around from the Indian entrepreneurs also. There's a lot of work that's going on also. I think we can also collaborate together in terms of a lot of knowledge-based industries also.
Yeah.
That is number 3. So, and then given the challenge the world is facing in terms of climate change, the biggest change, and then transition towards renewables and all, I think there's a lot of collaboration that can take place between Indian companies and Chinese companies. And this can become a role model for the entire world, especially Western companies as well as Western governments. Our systems are different, but both the systems work. So therefore, I think, but I think it's a great case study how different systems can work. So, and take care of such a big amount of us and take care of such a huge population. So I think I would say, let's look at this as an opportunity that's coming up. A lot of politics we keep on in the media, a lot of politics going on, border issues, lots of other issues, but I think these are all minor irritants. I think we should look at the larger picture, which is development of the countries as well as better world for the future for the people. I think that's the larger picture which I would say, and a lot of opportunities for Indians and Chinese put together. That's what I would say is the opportunity for us.
Well, fantastic, Brian. Very well said. And thanks for your time, and thank you for your wisdom. And
thanks, Edward.
I'm sure my clients will appreciate your input when they hear about your inputs, your insights.
Yeah, that's it. More than happy to always engage again, help all the people. So as I say, one of the things which I always like to do is engage more with people with different mindsets, different kind of thoughts, and see how we can find a common ground together. So I'll be more than happy to help all your friends and then engage with you more.
So people can find you via your blog, via your LinkedIn account, and
exactly
sources,
my
right?
LinkedIn account, and I think you have my contact, my email ID, my LinkedIn account sits there with you.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful.
So
good.
I think I'll be more than happy to help all the friends. And in fact, I'll be more than happy to engage with clients so that I can improve my Chinese again. In fact, I learned quite a lot of Mandarin in China since off late, ever since I moved back to India. So maybe I would like to again polish up my Mandarin skills right now.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ram.
Thanks,
for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.